going to be looking at writing equations of lines today. Okay, and when we are writing equations of lines, the information that's given to us is just going to be slightly different. So Gabe, that needs to be put away. Taking notes. All the way away. Okay, so when we are writing equations of lines today, we're still stuck in those same three categories that we were given yesterday, except remember the rules were that you are given or you can find. Okay, and everything that we looked at yesterday was things are just directly given to us. Today we're going to have to do a little bit more work to maybe find info to make it fit into a category. The good part is we already know how to find the info that we need to find. So it's not extra like new work to learn, it's just an extra step. So today I'm going to write this one out in a sentence just so you can see it presented in a different format. So yesterday I just sort of had instructions of write the equation of a line and then I gave you information. The information might be embedded in that sentence. So maybe it'll say something like, write the equation of a line that passes through, I'm just going to shorthand this, 4, 2, and 10,
9.
10. You want to make it too difficult to start with. Okay, so we said yesterday there were 3 ways that we could write equations of lines. We could write the equation of a line if we were given the slope and the y-intercept. Do we have M and B up here? No. We could write the equation of the line if we were given something with undefined slope. Do we have undefined slope up here? No. We could write the equation of a line if we were given a point and a slope. Do we have a point and a slope up here? No. Okay, so there's this one question mark, this like one important piece that is determining the category. What is the one thing we need for every single category? Slope. Do we know what the slope is up here?
No.
No. Vida, what's your thought though?
Wouldn't you do like the y2 or the y1?
But do we have enough info to find the slope?
No.
Yes. Right? We can find slope between 2 points. So if we are given other info, it might be our job to find the slope so that we can then place it in the appropriate category to write the equation of the line. Okay, so that's not new. We know how to find the slope. It's just an extra step we have to add in. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to find the slope between these 2 points. So the slope formula is still the same. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, now here's sort of your, you get to go backwards and reverse and relearn. Lots of us are fine with slope, but there's a couple of us who could probably use a little bit review, so here's your chance. Right, we have this formula that tells us how to find slope between 2 points, where every ordered pair is an x, y. Okay, so we have 2 ordered pairs that are x, y. Okay, and we have the first ordered pair, so those are each going to get a sub 1. Yes, Caleb?
So wouldn't it be...
Hang on a second. Okay, and we have the second ordered pair, which is both a sub 2. So I know some of you right away can jump in and plug this in, but I just want to make sure we're reviewing and all on that same page, because there's a couple of us who still missed it on the test. So when we go to plug this in, we are taking this formula and we're substituting each value in for its variable. So y sub 2 is whatever number is sitting above it. So y sub 2 is going to be 10. Minus y sub 1 is going to be 2. Okay, then x sub 2 is going to be 10
Subtract 4.
minus x sub 1, which is 4. Okay, and then we'll just do the math. So 10 minus 2 is 8, and 10 minus 4 is 6. How do we always write slope? What is the rule for what slope has to look like?
It has to be
Jaden?
Don't you have to like simplify?
Right, so it has to be a reduced improper fraction. So no decimals, no mixed numbers, nothing of that type.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so if we're going to reduce 8 over 6, right, this is going to reduce to our slope being 4 over 3.
So you do not want it as a mixed number, you want it as...
Correct, slope is always improper.
Oh,
Okay, so now let's go through our 3 categories. Do we know the slope and the y-intercept?
yes. Wait, no.
No, because we don't know the y-intercept. Do we have undefined slope? Nope. Do we have the slope and a point?
Yes.
Yes, in fact, we have the slope and 2 points, so we like get a pick of our point.
So we can do y.
Right, so we can do this point slope formula just like we were doing yesterday. Okay, so we're going to use the slope that we just found. So our slope is now 4 over 3. Like, you can pick your favorite point. Okay, so maybe Vida decides she wants to pick the point 4 comma 2 because it's smaller numbers. But Sutton decides that 10 is his lucky number, and so he wants 10 comma 10. It doesn't matter. There isn't something that says one point is better than the other. We're just going to pick one of them. So what would we like to pick as a class? What do we think? 4 comma 2, we're fine with that. Okay, so we'll pick the point 4 comma 2. And we will start plugging into point slope form, just like we did yesterday. So we'll say y minus y sub 1. So which one's our y?
Oh, 2.
2 equals m, which is 4/3, times x minus 4. Can we leave our answer in this format?
No.
Nope. So what are we going to have to do?
Multiply 4.
Right? So we're going to start solving by distributing. So the first one's the easy one, right? That gives us a 4/3 x. Okay, if you need to use your calculator, use your calculator.
1/3.
Okay, so 4/3 minus 4 will give us a negative, times
16/3.
negative 4 will give us a negative 16/3, which would be a 5 1/3.
5 1/3.
Okay, so either format is fine. Okay, and then just like yesterday, right, if we left that in our calculator, what would we now do to get y by itself?
Add 2 on both
Add
sides.
2. And we'll say y equals
22/3.
4/3 x
3 and 1/3.
minus 3 1/3, which would be the same thing as 10/3.
I got 22/3.
So make sure you have your sign right on this top one. It sounds like maybe we missed a negative when we first distributed. So when you go to distribute right there, do your 4/3 times negative 4, so that the negative's there,
I just
and then just do your plus 2, okay? Now, you don't need to write this next step down, but I do want to show you so that you can see. I'll just kind of squeeze it in here. Okay, if Sutton picked 10 comma 10 because it's his favorite number, and he plugged into point slope form, y minus 10 equals 4/3 times x minus 10, his original problem looks very different than the one that we came up with. Okay, and so most likely just by looking at it, you would not go, oh yeah, that's right, because that's the exact same equation. But if we solve this for y, so this would give us a negative 30/3. Oh, no, that's not right. A negative 10/3, which would be the same thing as 3 1/3. And so when we solve it for y, our equation looks exactly the same. That's why we solve it for y. Okay, so even if Vida and Sutton pick different points to plug into their point slope form, when they solve for y, they're both getting the exact same answer. Questions on this example? Okay, next one. -2, 8 and 6, -4. Okay, so what are we going to do first? We want to write the equation of this line.
It's gonna be
Right? We're going to find the slope, so we're going to start doing the y minus the y over the x minus the x.
So it's -4.
So -4 minus 8 over 6 minus -2. Okay, so now we've been talking about this more. What might we turn these two negatives into?
Positive.
A positive, right? Because that's adding the opposite. Okay, what do we need to do next?
Simplify.
Simplify, right? So -12 over 8, 4 will go into each of these.
2 -3 -2.
Yep. So we got -3 over 2.
-3 over 2.
Caleb, do you have a preference of which point you'd like us to pick?
no.
So just pick one for me. Pick one of these two.
-2, 8.
-2, 8. Sounds great. Right? Sometimes there isn't a clear winner and you just kind of got to go with one. Just pick one. Okay, so we'll start plugging in. So we'll say y minus what?
-8.
8. Do we see how the process is very, very repetitive? And we will be doing this for another 2.5 days. Equals -3 over 2 times x minus what?
-2.
-2.
So then now we have to do.
Okay, so just like we said, these two negatives, let's simplify our life and let's turn that into a positive. And then as we start solving, where are we going to go next? I see you already clicking in your calculator, so it looks like, yeah, it looks like most of us are already distributing. Okay, so here we'll get a -6 over 2, which is 3.
Wait, what?
I was just doing the fraction times it. It's okay if you just used your calculator.
3 1/2.
Put in the -3 over 2 times the 2.
Oh, I did.
I think I'm a step ahead, yeah.
I did
do-
pause.
Oh, yeah. Okay, then we'll undo subtracting the 8 by adding the 8.
Which is 5. Oh.
Okay, so remember yesterday when I said that process was important, once we know that process for plugging into point slope form, everything else from this point forward just kind of falls in place. If we don't know the process for using point slope form, then it's not quite as easy. Okay, and that's okay if you're still like figuring it out and working on it. We're gonna do a lot more with it. We do it every day between now and the time. I mean, literally every problem on your quest, the 17 problems, is like this pretty much. In some way, shape, or form. Let's look at one more. Okay, so 2, 5 and 2, -3. What are we going to do first?
-3 subtract 5.
So we're going to find the slope.
2 subtract 2. And for this one, when you do
Wouldn't this be undefined?
Why is it undefined, Jaden?
Because you're dividing 0 with 8.
you can't do that.
Where is the 0?
0 is on the bottom and the 8
On the bottom, right? So if 0 is in the denominator, we can't divide by 0, which means this is an undefined slope. Okay, so now we have to think carefully. This is the point I was making at the beginning. As soon as we see undefined slope, what should our brains think? X equals. So forget about the category where we're plugging into point slope form. Undefined slope overrides all of that.
X equals 2.
And we're going directly to x equals.
So, but how do you get 2?
Okay, so then we need to go back up to the points and look and see what the x value is.
Oh.
So just like we did in the POD, right? We're looking up here and we're saying, oh, x
It's 2.
is 2.
I see where I got
Now, what happens if those x's aren't the same?
You have to think of
What if, like, this is a 2 and this is a 4?
it. Don't you have to do the box thing and do like?
just
Could we? I mean, is x equals 2 the same thing as x equals 4?
No.
You can simplify.
No.
We have to find like the common denominator.
What happens if this is a 2 and this is a 4? How would this change any of our work here?
Because they're not,
Well,
those aren't
minus
the
2.
And does that equal 0?
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible for those to be two different numbers?
No.
No.
And to be undefined slope?
No.
No. Okay, so the only way you better be getting undefined slope is if your x values are the same.
Okay.
If your x values are different and you somehow think you have undefined slopes,
You're wrong.
oops, you messed up. You better go back and check your work.
Okay.
Okay, questions on that?
Oh, I mean, I need to practice.